Hey, welcome back to 65 Drums. My name's Justin. So a little while ago, I had this bright idea to do a roast my drum set style thing, where you would send in photos and video clips of your setups, and then I would roast them. The problem is the idea was flawed from the very get-go. I asked you to send photos of drum sets that looked like they fell down a flight of stairs, and instead you sent me a bunch of masterpieces, along with a few train wrecks, which of course we'll cover, and a bunch of acoustic drum sets as well, which really surprised me. So let's take a look and see what kind of drum sets do people who watch 65 Drums play. That's coming up. But first, today's video is brought to you by EdrumCenter.com. If you get inspired by any of the setups in this video and you feel like you want to buy a new ride cymbal, upgrade your snare drum, get a new module, get a new drum set, whatever the case may be, go check out EdrumCenter. We've got a discount link for you in the description of this video. You save some money, it supports 65 Drums, and you're buying from a great store based in Tennessee. Okay, so I promise everything in this video won't cost $10,000, but I have to start off with this monstrous drum set sent in to us by Ted. I don't even know exactly what's going on here, but I'll give it my best shot. As far as I can tell, this is two separate crystal beat pearl drum sets smushed together. And then holding everything together are two pearl icon racks that are just stuffed full of enhancements. In fact, I'm not exactly sure what the purpose of everything I'm seeing is. Like, what are these rack-mounted pieces doing? They're like reaching up to the ceiling. But of course, the first thing that jumps out at you is that he's got clear shells with LED tape inside of each and every one of his drums. And he can control the lights at will for like different colors, apparently. He's going for that clear aesthetic, so he went and bought some Pintec Visualite cymbals, which you can buy in a bunch of different colors, but he went with clear, so it really goes with the theme of the drum set. I like this tasty arrangement of splash cymbals over here. That's awesome. When it comes to the drum triggers, this is where having clear shells comes in handy for us, because I think I'm looking at a Convertible Percussions TB8. I've got one myself in my high tom. It's interesting because it's a side-mounted trigger, but it's on a track, so the head sensor can be either on the side or in the center, depending on where you want the hotspot. The one downside of this design is that it's not a bar trigger, so it doesn't have that rock-solid stability of two contact points, or just a little bit of metal with the traditional side-mounted design, but I'm getting decent results out of mine so far. He went with a clip-on trigger, the Edrum Chrome Elite, for this one. And then for the kick drum, this is some sort of bar trigger that can, expand and contract depending on the size of the shell, but I'm not exactly 100% certain what company made this. I'm going to go with Jabeki, but I could be off. I have no idea what these mesh heads are because they don't have any logos on them, except for this Drum Tech one over here on the far left. One surprising thing is that because he has the digital ride cymbal over here on the right side, you would assume he would also pair that with the digital snare drum. But just by looking at this, the lack of the Roland logo and the way that the internals look a little bit from being able to see slightly through it with those lights, I'm going to guess that this is a conversion snare drum. Now, when it comes to what's powering everything, he's got two modules that I can see. So he's got a Roland TD27 tucked away over here in the shadows, and then he also has a Pearl Mimic Pro drum module as well. I find it really interesting how he's mounted this. It's probably a lot easier to make adjustments when you're just poking at a touchscreen like that versus having to look down. We also get a handful of shots of Ted posing in front of the drum set and then behind the kit as well, ready to rock. If I had to roast anything about this drum set, it'd probably be the cable management. I realize it would probably take him days to manage all these cables. There's just so much going on. But if you could get some like cable sleeves or, get some sort of like those Velcro straps and sort of align everything, that would make it look very clean. Okay, so this next drum set is sent in by Yael. Sorry if I mispronounced that. I've never actually met anybody with that name before. Cool. So this is certainly one of the drum sets of all time. Looks like the snare drum is sitting on a drum throne. Crash 1 is on a mic stand. The hi-hats and tom 1 and the drum module are all sitting on this like X keyboard stand. Your guess is as good as mine how he's balancing that drum module on the edge of that keyboard stand, but it's working somehow. And then the floor tom is sitting on a cajon with like the packaging still on it. And then the kick drum is just sort of leaning against the keyboard stand. I'm a little bit confused on exactly how is this all staying upright as he's blasting away on it. Okay, so looking into his message, he says that this was his drum set from 2013. Apparently he bought this 2-box drum at 5, and they just sort of lost the drum rack during shipping, so he had to just make it happen. And listen, man, I completely feel this. I remember my first ride cymbal. I had a Sabian B8 20-inch ride cymbal. The only way I could get it standing upright, because I didn't have a ride cymbal stand, I got a folding metal chair, and then I took a milk crate, turned it upside down, got a broken drumstick, stuck that into the milk crate, and then I put the cymbal on top of this whole contraption. It was absolutely hideous, but somehow it worked, and that's kind of what you got to do sometimes. A quick little piece of backstory about this drum set. If it came out today, it wouldn't be anything extraordinary, but back then, it was actually a pretty big deal. It was put together by the people who left Edrum after Edrum got sold off to Armadillo Enterprises. So these people that were working on the famous Edrum drum sets somehow got involved and started a new company. I don't know what the ownership was or whatever. You could tap an external hard drive into it, and then load that external hard drive with whatever kind of drum software you wanted. So you could essentially just have a drum plugin based drum module, no computer required. At least that's my understanding of how it worked. I never owned one of these drum sets. All I do know is that if you were on the forums around the time that this came out, people were hyping this drum set up, and it was like the nerd's drum set back then. Okay, this next submission is from this man who sent this in over on Instagram. There's a lot of cool things going on. This is a combination of multiple Roland drum sets all together. The kick drum is from DrumTech, the module's a TD27, and the cymbals are all these solid metal cymbals from Field. They're like the American version, the American competitor to Giobecchi, essentially. I really like the kick drum art on the resonant head up front. I think that looks cool. Even his cable management is pristine. He's got this sleeve that sort of gathers all the cables together. That actually looks identical to the cable sleeve that I've used on different Gava drum sets they've sent into the channel to be reviewed. It's very effective. Solid drum set. It looks good on a red carpet or that drum rug he's got over there in this image as well. Good setup. Okay, this next drum set is sent in by Squirrel, and it's actually two setups. This is going to be his process, his glow up, his transformation. His snare drum is sitting on an upside down trash can. Man, that drum throne looks uncomfortable. And now he's got a drum set that looks very interesting, and I don't really recognize this line of cymbals. Red? Maybe that's a cymbal line that's popular outside of the United States, and I'm just unaware of it. Like, high quality cymbals have a look to them for some reason. Even if they look completely different from each other, you can just take a look and say, that's a nice sounding cymbal. Or of course, maybe he bought these from AliExpress for $5 and he's laughing at his computer right now. Who knows? I don't really know if these sound good or not, but they look like they sound tasty. Okay, so next up, we've got one of the more confusing drum sets I've ever seen. This is quite the odd collection of different components. Let's see, we've got a Roland TD50X module, we've got an Alesis Strike module, we've got an Alesis side snare, Alesis floor tom, and Alesis high tom. I believe that might be the Roland digital snare drum right there. And then we've got a kick drum from the Roland VAD 306 and VAD 103 series of drums. We've got a ride cymbal from F Note, maybe 20 inches, maybe 18 inches. He's got like a little bead chain going off of it. I guess it's for aesthetics, I'm not exactly sure. The China cymbal kind of looks like it's ATV, F Note splash, maybe ATV set of hi-hats. It's a little bit hard to tell from this angle. Those kind of look like the 12-inch ones that come on like the EXS series of drums. Just a little bit of everything. But did you know this is not actually his dream drum set? Because over here on the wall, he's framed a JPEG of an Alesis Strike Pro SE so he can look at it every time he plays. Jokes aside, this drum set looks great. It looks fun. It's a very interesting, odd combination of different things. And with the two modules, I'm sure he got it all working perfectly together. All right, so this next one is submitted by JL. This is a really active dude on the 65 Drums Discord page. So if you want to go join the Discord, I'll leave a link to the invite in the description below. Honestly, there's like 5 of us on there. We need more people. So this is kind of an interesting combination. The base of the drum set is a TD10, but he's got a VH12 hi-hat. He's got a side snare or a side tom over there on the left. And then up top, you'll see that he's got a bunch of toms in a row. That's from the Alesis Surge. So he's actually running 2 modules, a TD27 and an Alesis Surge. They're both going to his computer at the exact same time. I think he mostly plays metal, so if you want to see him use this drum set, I'll leave a link to his channel up here on screen. Okay, so next up, we've got the Alesis drum set to end all Alesis drum sets. Let's see what's going on. So I see 2 Alesis Strike modules. I see the Alesis Strike multipad over here. We've got a regular Alesis Strike Pro SE, but it's not quite regular actually. We've got a side snare that's a Gen 1 Alesis Strike side snare. We've got, how many crashes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 crash cymbals, plus the hi-hats, plus the ride cymbal. And then 5 toms. In addition, it looks like he's got a foot switch so he can change, I think that's so he can change kits inside of his multipad over here. He's got the Pearl kick drum pedals. He's got the Speed Cobra hi-hat, an additional hi-hat controller pedal, which I assume is to control stuff inside of his sample pad over here. There's a mixer board tying everything together, and then he's just got an iPad over here to like read lyrics or whatever it is that he does with that. This is beyond epic. This is great. I love this. Now, as far as like his description on how he got to this point, because you don't just arrive one day with a drum set like this. He says that he started off with a Roland TD6 back in 2002. Man, that's an older drum set. And then, let's see, he bought an Elisa Strike Pro. And then somehow he was able to buy 2 expansion packs for 77% off. He basically got them for free. The only downside is that his first Elisa Strike Pro module, it had a low volume issue that couldn't be fixed with the hacks that you can find online. Like I think one of the hacks is boosting the gain inside of the compressor. That didn't work, so he either got a refund or got a new one. And he also has the second module as well. Overall, this is great. Love this. Okay, so next up is John Deff, who, by the way, has been watching 65 drums since who knows when, but he's been watching for years and years at this point. So thanks for supporting the channel for so long. Anyway, so this appears to be a conversion setup. Started off its life as a Ludwig kit. He newly wrapped everything, including this like PDX 8 pad over here. I didn't even realize you could put a drum wrap on that, but that's cool. Fits in with the rest of the vibe of the entire kit. He's got a TD20 module on this. The drum heads appear to be either regular roll-on mesh heads or a power ply. By the way, the power ply thing was a little bit confusing to me. The power ply is literally the exact same thing as their standard 2 plies, but with a slightly different logo. The cymbals and everything else also appear to be Roland as well, so that's the brand of choice. The only thing that I wish I knew about this drum set are what are the internals like? What kind of sensors or triggers are he using on the inside? Regardless though, it's a great drum set. He's also based in Ohio, which of course is where I grew up, so that's awesome as well. All right, so next up, let's take a look at the greatest TD11 drum set you'll ever see in your entire life. Well, actually, it's kind of a TD11 and also a TD9 at the same time. That is a lot of cymbals, man. That's a lot of cymbals. He said that everything we're looking at is basically Roland except for 2 cymbals by Trigera. One of them is this ride cymbal over here in the corner. One of these days, I really need to try something from them because I think Trigera had, don't quote me on this, but if not the first, but one of the earliest rubber electronic China cymbals. And it was only later when like ATV did it and then also F-Note did it that more companies were doing this sort of thing. And now Lemon has theirs as well. Now, of course, I like larger electronic drums, but there's always a trade-off with larger E-drums. Your setup can only get so large because at a certain point you run out of room, basically. But with this, you can get just a massive, massive setup in such a small footprint. Like he's not taking up this whole room. He's only taking up this little section of the room, and he's got so much to play with. This next drum set was submitted by Austin, and this is a unique combination of things going on that I've never quite seen before. So it appears that he's got crash cymbals from Pintech. He's got like a lemon hi-hat, but then he's got a controller from Go EdrumCenter sitting underneath of it. And then the ride cymbal is also lemon. For his triggers, it seems to be Pintech. And then this mesh head is a Roland power ply, and then those appear to be Remo silent strokes. He says the reason why this is a little bit different than maybe other drum sets you would play that look like this is the fact that he's got these Remo sound control muffs, the old ones, not the new ones, under all the mesh heads. They disperse some of the energy, so it reduces the bounciness of the heads, and he needs every edge he can get with those Remo silent strokes, which are very, very bouncy. Apparently, the only downside is that they do increase the overall volume of the heads, but he feels like the trade-off is worth it. Now in the photo, what I'm seeing is an Elisa's Trigger IO, but apparently in his message, he's saying that he's actually running, the Edrum N10. So that's obviously the superior piece of equipment, so he's running that. This is going to a Mac Mini, and he's using EZDrummer 3 to power the drum set. Now, the tricky thing about playing live with EZDrummer or Superior Drummer or whatever drum plugin you're using is that you have one of 3 choices. You can either go with the crummy choice, which is running a feed to front of house from your headphone jack of your computer. Don't do that, but it works in a pinch, I guess. And then number 2, you could buy a massive audio interface if you wanted to have a ton of direct outs, and then you'd have to route everything inside of your DAW, and then that would have to go through the channels, and then that would have to go into a stage box that would then send it to front of house. That's also a big pain in the butt. And then, of course, your final choice is what he decided to go with. He's just running a Cat 5 cable from the back of his MacBook or his Mac Mini, and that's going to front of house. He's getting 22 channels of audio over Dante, over that Cat 5 cable, and that's how he's getting all that audio up there. This is the best way to do it, when possible. This next submission is sent in to us by Rob, and this is basically his touring setup. He said that these photos are taken in just a hotel somewhere. So this is a TD27KV but with upgrades. So as you can tell, he's added a second crash and he's added 2 more toms. What really interests me about this kit is actually the drum throne. This is like a custom shaker drum throne. You can tell he took a regular throne and then he cut out a board and then painted it black so it would fit with the whole look of it. He bolted that on, and now he can bolt on 2 shakers underneath of his drum throne. Now, the reason why doing it custom like this is smart if you're not going to buy something like a Porter & Davies is that with something like a butt kicker or whatever Pearl made, that's sort of attaching to the post of the throne. I assume not all the vibration would go directly to you. It would also go, to the floor because it's not quite on the seat itself. With this, it literally, you've got cheek by cheek distribution of force. So yeah, that's genius, and it looks like this is the unit that drives everything. Apparently, all this breaks down into 3 road cases, and he can set all this up in about an hour. So that's a win. Okay, the next setup is sent in by Danny. This appears to be a conversion style setup. As far as I can tell, it looks like he's using a Roland Katie 822 conversion package for the kick drum. He's got DrumTech real feel mesh heads on it, just like I do. I love those mesh heads. Let's see, for the cymbals, it looks like it's basically lemon. Lemon crashes, lemon splash, lemon ride cymbal, and lemon China cymbal. And then the hi-hat, I'm going to assume it's a VH11. Everything is powered by this Roland TD9 module, and he didn't send along what kind of sensors he's using inside of the snare or the toms. Looks like a fun, solid kit. All right, so this next submission is from Mike Foreigner. Turns out I recognize that name because he's been watching the channel for a long time, and I actually briefly mentioned him in a video like a long time ago, so it's great to see him back. This appears to be, according to his description, a modified TD30, but now with a TD50X module. He took a year off his YouTube channel, but apparently this is his brand new studio, so I assume this means more videos are on the way. And if you take a look at footage of his old version of the kit before he got his TD50, I believe this is the TD30. I should know, I have one. Why don't I know for sure? Anyway, you can see his collection of cymbals. You would assume that they would all be from the TD30. They look like they're from a TD20 SX. The reason why I say that is the Roland TD30 KV cymbals, they have a darker silver color, and the previous generation had a lighter silver color. Dude is rocking with 2 separate laptops at the same time. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that looks like Superior Drummer 3 on that laptop over here on the left. When you go back to the front of the kit, you can also see the way he's sort of incorporated speakers into his setup, so the sound is like coming underneath of his toms, which is cool. The only thing I would probably change here is messing with the lights a little bit so the green screen is more evenly lit. That makes it a lot easier to key out stuff inside of your computer program later on if you're not fighting with really dark green over here and then almost white, bright green over here. But yeah, awesome setup. I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel here on screen. Now moving ahead to our first and only lefty setup, this is a drum set sent in by Luke. Apparently his kit started off its life as a Roland TD17 KVX, and he just wasn't having it and decided it needed a handful of upgrades. So somehow that TD17 KVX evolved into this drum set. So he's got the digital ride, the digital snare, a TD27 module, he's got the digital hi-hats, and he also has just better cymbals overall. On top of this, he's also got, what is that? The KD140 kick drum, whatever that is. Everything is on noise eaters to reduce like a vibration transfer to the floor below him. Even his laptop stand is sick. This drum set is absolutely pristine. It's compact, but also has a lot of components, a ton of cymbals. The sizes and everything make it feel substantial. It doesn't look wimpy, and that kick drum is great. It feels really, really solid. The next submission is from Harwood over on Instagram. This is basically a decked out TD50 KV. So you can see the ATV China over here on the far right, and then an ATV Splash over here on the far left, and then just a bunch of Roland cymbals and toms and stuff that come standard with the drum set. But of course, we've already seen a bunch of awesome drum sets, so what I'm actually really loving about this photo is that sick drum rug, that Tama drum rug. That looks great. So at this point, we've only hit like half the submissions, so instead of talking about the rest of the photos in ultra detail, what I'll do is I put the rest of the drum sets on screen and then talk about some broad trends I've been noticing. Trend number 1 is that we saw the TD27 show up again and again and again, 9 times. The second trend that I noticed is actually a lack of a company, and that's Yamaha. This used to be a pillar of the electronic drum scene, but I guess like the DTX 6, 8, and 10 series is not very popular. I only got 2 submissions that had any Yamaha components that I noticed. One was a DTX Explorer crash cymbal on a TD27, and the second was a full DTX drum set. It was the 502 generation, but the guy who sent it to me had the photo set to disappear on Instagram Messenger, so I couldn't grab it to put it in this video, unfortunately. So next up, we've got cymbal upgrades. The vast majority of cymbals in this entire video were Roland. I did try to sort of stagger the different drum sets that I was talking about so it wasn't Roland over and over and over again, But in addition, people were buying other company cymbals to pair with their Roland modules. We saw a bunch of ATV cymbals, a bunch of F-note cymbals, and also a surprising number of Lemon cymbals. Lemon cymbals used to be kind of a pain in the butt to get because you had to purchase them from AliExpress or Alibaba. Shipping times were very, very long. They were a little bit of a mysterious brand that not many people owned. But at this point, you can buy them off of Amazon. Joe Becky says they're actually putting money into making the molds better. And I think the DrumTech Zeitgeist cymbals are actually Lemon cymbals without the logo as well. So they're becoming more and more commonplace, let's just say. The next thing that was kind of surprising was the number of acoustic drum sets that got submitted. I just kind of assumed that if you watch 65 Drums, and if you're a long-term subscriber, and if you follow me on Instagram, and then you send me a photo via Messenger, that it would probably be like an electronic drum set, maybe a hybrid drum set. But instead, I got quite a few acoustic drums that I was not expecting. So that was great to see. I love it. Now, when it comes to kick pedals, I kind of expected to see some of these brands. Like, of course, you're going to get a bunch of DW9000s, 5000s, and 3000s. Of course, you expect to see a bunch of Pearl kick drum pedals, a couple of Mapexes because they're getting very cheap right now. But I wasn't expecting to see so many Tama Speed Cobras. You expect to see a bunch of Iron Cobras, but Speed Cobras are apparently becoming more and more popular. I understand why, because they have a long pedal base, they feel very fluid, they're very quick, they just have a nice premium feel to them. But the coolest thing by far is definitely how you guys combine different elements of random drum sets together to make these Frankenstein drum sets, or upgrades that maybe I wouldn't expect to see. You guys are actually pretty creative, so it was great to go and look through all this stuff. Thanks for sending your kits in. If you'd like me to do like a follow-up, 6 months from now or whatever, a part 2 essentially, let me know down in the comments if you like this kind of video, and I will see you in the next one.